Breaking news we're following from Hollywood. Award-winning actress Mary Tyler Moore has died. Moore rose to fame in the 1960s on The Dick Van Dyke Show and later starred in The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Moore had been suffering from complications from type 1 diabetes for decades. She was 81 years old. What do I do? Bob Newhart, a man who really does need no introduction, a longtime friend of Mary Tyler Moore, and he joins us now live on the phone from Los Angeles. First, we want to say, Mr. Newhart, thank you so much for joining us. We're sorry for the loss of your good friend. Could you share with us some of your memories of the Mary Tyler Moore that you knew for so many years?
Oh, sure, John, sure.
Where do we begin?
Well, let's see. It all started that there's this magical place that doesn't exist anymore, a place called, I don't know if it exists anywhere else, called MTM. And it was, there was such freedom there and such creativity, and creativity was so encouraged. And of course, MTM was Mary Tyler Moore. It was her husband Grant Tinker, Mary, and Arthur Price, who they built this studio called MTM, and I was lucky enough to be part of it. I think they took a chance on me. I think, could be wrong, but I think I may have been the first stand-up to ever go into television. There had been other stand-ups like Danny Thomas and Jack Benny and George Burns, but their shows were pretty much radio shows that they transported to television, and so. But MTM was, they took a chance, and and my background was totally stand-up. They didn't know if I could act or, but they took the chance, and that was that came right from the top. That came from Mary. She loved people. She loved actors, and she loved taking chances. And as you know, it was Mary Tyler Moore and the Bob Newhart Show. We were part of the, I don't know if it's true of CBC, but it was All in the Family, MASH, Mary Tyler Moore, us, and Carol Burnett.
The show,
and it was a magical place. I just in missing Mary, I also missed that magical place that existed in the 70s and the 80s.
As you yourself allude to there, you know a thing or two about a successful television comedy series, having done several over your career, the Bob Newhart Show and Newhart and others. What was it about her show, about the Mary Tyler Moore Show, that made it a hit? Was there magic behind that?
Well, I think it was such a breakthrough show, especially for women. I mean, she was her own person. She wasn't an appendage of her husband. Even with Lucy, at the end of the show, and Lucy would somehow get Desi into some kind of problem, and then she'd kind of come to him at the end and say, "I'm sorry," and he said, "Oh, that's all right, Lucy," and that was the end of the show. But Mary was a very independent woman. I don't think at that time it was originally intended to be. She just had a relationship and broken up, and she was moving to Minneapolis to start a whole new life. But I don't think the networks were recognized relationships, which of course had existed for long before there were networks. So it just was this wonderful, magical place that I was lucky enough to be a part of.
Do you have a particular memory of her that stands out for you, sir, from either your relationship with her as when she was a producer or a personal memory you could share with us?
Specifically, I know there were times like at our the 100th show of the Bob Newhart show, which came, I guess, in like the fourth season, and Grant and Mary both showed up. I mean, that to me was a family, and they cared about you, and you were part of the family, and they wanted to celebrate it along with you. And Mary, of course, Mary's passing, but she will live on because of, first of all, what she did and what the series did and what it did for women. And also, I can still hear it. It's funny. I don't know if we have the time, John. But
sure, go ahead. For you, sir, anything.
I was watching the series on HBO on the night of. I don't know if you saw it. It was a wonderful series with John Turturro, and there was this voice. I kept hearing this voice, and I said, "Who is that? Who? I have to find." It was a female prosecuting attorney, and I said, "I know that voice from somewhere," and so we looked it up. Her name was Jeannie Berlin, and we looked it up, and she was the daughter of Elaine May, of
right.
Mike and Elaine.
Sure.
And I said, I knew that voice, because she almost had the same delivery as Elaine did. And the same is true of Mary. I hear comedy shows, and you can hear Mary's voice. At least I can. That old Mr. Grant. So her legacy lives on because she influenced so many young comedy actresses. Plus the fact that just incredibly great writing. I mean, it was Jim Brooks and Alan Burns, and so it's sad, but in a way she lives on. She continues to live on in our lives.
Mr. Newhart, when was the last time you saw or spoke to Mary Tyler Moore?
Well, we didn't see each other much. Mary moved to Connecticut, as you know, and I was here. I talked to her on the phone a couple times. There was a report that Betty White and I were going to do a show together for Nick at Night or one of the channels, which was an error. I was maybe going to do a show, and she was going to do a show, but not the two of us together. And Mary heard about it, and she called me up. This is the last time I talked to her, maybe 5-6 years ago, and she said, I want in. I want to be part of it. And I did tell. I said, well, Mary, those reports are in error, but it would be great to work with you again.
Bob Newhart, I want to thank you so much for sharing your memories of a colleague and friend that was Mary Tyler Moore. Can't thank you enough for your time and your memories.
Well, thank you, John. I enjoyed it.
We did too. Actor, comedian, writer Bob Newhart speaking to us from Los Angeles.